Hello, everyone, and welcome to Frankenstein's podcast, where we discuss all kinds of fictional monsters, creatures, and beasts from the alien to the mythological and supernatural from all corners of pop culture. Hi, I am one of your hosts, Joe Praska, and
I'm your other host, Khalid Hussein.
how's it going, Khalid?
Oh, super groovy, man. I'm up at the crack of dawn, just ready to talk monsters with my friends.
Yeah, it's super early for you. It's like 7-something down in LA, isn't it?
Yeah, 7-something indeed. It feels like 7-something.
Yeah, and you're one of those weird guys that doesn't drink coffee.
Nah, man. I'm my own coffee. I motivate myself.
So, guess what, Khalid?
What?
We have another special guest today.
What? No,
Yeah.
I knew this time. I'm not doing.
You
that
knew
thing
last
again.
time, too. So our special guest today is Rod Faulkner. Rod is a lover and purveyor of great sci-fi fantasy horror, specifically in the realm of indie short films and web series. He's the founder of the largely successful Seventh Matrix website and host of the Eye on Sci-Fi podcast. Welcome, Rod.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. I'm really excited for this episode. It's kind of a breaking format one for us. It's a little different, so it's fun to have you on.
Ah, cool. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know about Khalid, but I know personally I've been looking at your site for a long time now. It's a way that I found lots of really cool short films in the sci-fi fantasy genre, and I've only really just recently started listening to your podcast, and I really liked it. So I really enjoyed your interview with the creators of In Search of Tomorrow documentary, and I really liked your 100th episode, the BLM one. I thought that was really like kind of poignant especially for the moment, because I think a lot of people who are in our fandoms, it just makes sense that would be something you would relate to or a cause that you'd identify with. So it sometimes surprises me that it's such a controversial topic in the sci-fi fantasy fandom.
Right. And I do appreciate your kind words, too, about the website and the podcast. I am just, like yourself and Khalid, a guy who loves genre fiction in really all its forms and all media, but especially in the area of independent short film. And regarding Black Lives Matter, it was just an inflection point for me personally because of some things that I was going through that I explained in the episode, and then the events that were happening in our nation. And I just felt that I could not comment on what was going on, and it just so happened to converge with my 100th episode. So I really appreciate that you took the time to listen. And yeah, I just felt that I had to share my thoughts.
Yeah, and it came off great. And anyone listening, go check out Rod's podcast, Eye on Sci-Fi podcast. Check out those episodes and the others. They're fantastic. But yeah, let's talk about monsters. I mentioned before we started recording, I have a couple questions that I ask guests, and Rod chose to let these be kind of a blind thing, right? We're going to go into it blind, so I'm kind of excited. So the first question I have for you, and I'm actually
Okay.
going to give you the first two together just because they build off each other. Since this is a monster podcast, the first question is, what is your favorite monster from any corner of pop culture, whether that's a movie, book, TV show, comic, short film, web series? And the second part of that is, which one do you think is the scariest? Because sometimes they might be the same, sometimes they might be different.
Okay, so what is my favorite, and then which one do I think is the scariest?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, now that's easy, actually. My favorite is the xenomorph from Alien.
Great choice.
And it's also, to me, the scariest because they are purely instinctual. They reproduce, they feed, and that's it. And you can't reason with them. You can't negotiate with them. If they see you, you're dead. And I thought the way that Ridley Scott portrayed that, and the way that he combined really two genres, horror and science fiction, was brilliant in the original Alien. And then I think that James Cameron just took that mantle in Aliens and kind of just notched everything up to the nth degree. So that's my answer to both of your questions, is that it's the xenomorph from Alien. I mean, when I saw that when I was younger, it gave me nightmares.
It's a great choice. The xenomorph is iconic in so many ways. So it's hard to beat that answer.
Yeah, H.R. Geiger, he was disturbed but very talented.
Yes.
Yo, my friend in middle school had a bunch of H.R. Geiger posters and stuff. It was before I
Oh,
really
God.
knew. Yeah, it was exactly what you think it was, and actually explained a lot about him. Not in any
Oh,
bad way, but just like I was like, okay, this is context now, just in hindsight.
well, I went to college with someone, and I'm a bit older than you guys, so I'm 50. So when I was in school, this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And a friend of mine, I remember he was an art major and he loved Geiger's work. And he showed me there was some type of art book that he had purchased. It was really expensive, really nice, but I couldn't get through it. It was just nightmarish. But the guy is talented, so that's undeniable.
Something to be commended there. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
The next question I have for you, and this is more of a personal one, is kind of just what would you consider is on your geek card? So all of us here, generally I would say self-proclaimed geeks. We like nerdy things, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. What are your major fandoms? What are your major influences? And what drew you to kind of making the Seventh Matrix or being kind of this go-to source for sci-fi fantasy?
Oh, sure. Well, I call myself a blurred, and I don't know if you two have heard that term, but it's just a black nerd,
Yeah.
blurred. And I was a blurred long before it was fashionable. Again, I came of age in, let's see, I was a child growing up in the late 70s. And then my teenage years, which is another reason why I love Stranger Things, was in the early 80s. So that show really resonates with me. But this was before being a geek or being a nerd was popular in the cultural zeitgeist. So I read comic books. Gosh, let's see. I also love science fiction. I'm going to tell you what really inspired my love of sci-fi is in reruns. I watched the original Star Trek show.
Yes.
And what grabbed my attention was not only did it have an inclusive cast, and I was so young that I really couldn't articulate at the time, that's what drew me to the show, but also when I saw Nichelle Nichols as Lieutenant Uhura, that sold me on science fiction because her role was so rare. You rarely saw black people on television, and if you did, it was in really stereotypical roles that were not that favorable. Were not that great. Either we were the comic relief, or we were the thug that was being caught, or for the women they were the prostitutes, or some menial, the maid, or something like that. To see this beautiful black woman who was accomplished, and she was on the command deck of a spaceship blew my mind. And it really opened me up to how the genre of speculative fiction does that. It asks what if, and it explores all different possibilities. And that's why I love it so, and I've always been drawn to science fiction and fantasy. I'm also an avid reader, so I read a lot. I really fell in love with the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, but then I discovered Octavia Butler, and God, I've read Raymond E. Feist. So I was a big, big nerd. And in the terms of comic books, I grew up on the John Byrne run of the Fantastic Four and Chris Claremont's work on X-Men. And on DC side, I love the Legion of Superheroes, Justice League. So as you can tell by me going on and on, yeah, I'm a big, big geek.
Yeah, blurred, recognized blurred.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I do dislike about you mentioned about fandoms,
Yeah.
is that I hate that question that inevitably gets asked about Star Trek is Star Trek or Star Wars. I say both,
Oh,
and they
100% agreed.
both, yeah, they coexist, and they both actually serve different purposes in science fiction. Star Wars is groundbreaking, but it is just pure adventure. It does have some underlying themes, but Star Trek really does focus on tackling social issues. So I think you could have both, and I hate when I see that online. Well, which one is better, and one is better than the other? Why is there a comparison? I've never understood that.
Agreed. I know.
They both have the word star in it, Rod. Come on, you have to
Oh,
make a fight.
okay.
Yeah.
Silly me.
Got to throw
Yeah.
Stargate in there then too.
Yeah,
Which I love as
all
well.
The Star shows.
Yeah, so they have to be head to head. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for your answers, Rod. That's great. That's wonderful to hear all that. It's always fascinating to me just to hear like what brings people to just fandom or just to what they love. I think it's a kind of an inspiring thing to always hear about.
Oh, sure.
But
Thanks for your questions.
Yeah.
I just have one. What does the seventh Matrix mean exactly, Rod?
I'm glad that you asked that. There is a story to that. And I'm going to try and be brief. And Joe, I'm also going to answer another question you had earlier, I think that I kind of missed. But what caused me to create the seventh Matrix was several years ago, an acquaintance of mine had a sci-fi podcast of his own, and we used to talk and geek out online. And I would love to go on YouTube, and I began discovering all of these short science fiction and fantasy films, but no one was talking about them. And I would share them with my friend. And he said, "You know, Rod, you need to start a website and you need to just curate and combine and add all of these discoveries that you're finding on this website." And I thought, you know what? That's a great idea. And that's how the seventh Matrix was born. Now, Khalid, to answer your question about the name, the number seven has always been my favorite number. I don't know why. I just have always had an affinity for it. So, my favorite science fiction movie of all time is the original Matrix. So, I combined the two, the seventh Matrix. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted a name that would kind of invoke, science fiction and the fantastical without being really obvious, like, sci-fi shortfilms.com. And one of my favorite websites is IO9. And I like the fact that IO9 is kind of unusual, but you kind of get a feel for what the content is. So that's why I created the Seventh Matrix. Now, this is interesting. I interviewed a filmmaker on my podcast, and I didn't realize this. He said, "Well, Rod, did you know that in the Matrix sequels, it's revealed that the current form of the Matrix that they're dealing with is the seventh iteration of that Matrix." I had no idea about that connection. So that's kind of serendipitous there. But yeah, that's how the name came to be.
And it just sounds super cool, actually. That's my thing.
Well,
I
thank
like
you.
about it. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I'm glad.
And the Seventh Matrix relates a lot to our topic today. You focus a lot on sci-fi short films and web series, and that happens to be our topic today. Khalid, do you want to just give us like an introduction into what we're doing?
Yeah. How do we want to do this exactly? Because, we have 5 different synopses, but basically we're talking about 5 short films that you and Rod helped curate for this discussion. The movies we'll be doing, or I guess short films that we'll be doing, are The Birch, Blackwood, The Fisherman, Dark Wake, and Dispel. So I guess as we go through each one, I can kind of give a quick synopsis of it right before we go into it.
Sounds great. Yeah, we're going to go through them in that order, spend a little bit of time discussing, and then we have something kind of fun at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great.
All right.
What a monster.
They're creatures of the abstract that live off potential energy.
It's alive!
So the first one we're going to start with is The Birch. From 2017 on Crypt TV. Khalid, take it away.
Cool. So The Birch, directed and written by Ben Franklin and Anthony Melton. It's about a bullied schoolboy who takes drastic measures against his tormentors, summoning an ancient being in the woods using a spellbound book passed down through the generations of his family.
Rod, what'd you think of this one?
I loved it. I was not familiar with it at all. And so I was very curious. And when I watched it, I thought everything about it was fantastic. I don't know about you two, but I definitely got Blair Witch vibes because of the wooden icon that represents the creature that's involved. And are we entering spoiler territory with
Sure.
this
Yeah, we can do
discussion?
that.
Or
Spoiler
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I thought because of the woods and that kind of the creepy atmosphere that's inherent in wooded areas, and then the young man has the little icon or the little symbol for the creature, and then when it's revealed, I definitely thought Blair Witch. But what I liked about it was that this creature really was a protector for the protagonist because he was bullied, and of course that's a real issue that we're grappling with as well. And I just like the message of it, and I really thought that it was well done, very atmospheric, very creepy.
Agreed, 100%. I really liked it. It kind of felt like it's firmly a horror story, but it feels like fairy tale esque in a lot of ways.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I really like that too. And I also like what you said about the creature being a protector in a sense, but I also like that felt just a little ambiguous. Like she's definitely a protector, but we're not 100% sure like the, I guess, quote unquote goodness of her ultimately. Like at the end, there's that shot of when like her stick hands are wrapping around the boy's hand. It's like, is this a good thing that he's getting himself into or not?
Yeah, and definitely too, Joe, that's a good point, as well as how the boy's bully is dispatched is pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this creature is extremely dangerous, and you really don't know the temperament of it. It's just kind of left up in the air.
Right. Khalid, what'd you think?
So it's interesting, Rod, that you got memories of Blair Witch. For me, I got memories of I think it was the Japanese version of Death Note when I saw it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was telling Joe, while this one wasn't my like favorite in terms of like its own story of the ones that we saw, it was my favorite in terms of the potential of the story. It's everything both of you guys were kind of mentioning, where there was something kind of almost sinister at the end of the short with the monster, and you weren't entirely sure of its intentions, and that's kind of where the Death Note of it all comes in. Without spoiling that movie too much, there's this idea of like this kid that may have in the beginning been justifiably like protected, but you could even tell with him that if you wanted to, you could make this story a little bit more like about like the origins of a villain, somebody who uses this creature for evil, and that was what's so interesting to me.
That's a great point too. I didn't even think about that, but I love that, Khalid.
Yeah, no, yeah, but I mean, I liked it a lot overall, like just for the story itself. I also thought there was something kind of just like the conceptually very sweet about the grandma that just like knew that she wasn't going to be there for him and wanted to protect him. That always hits me right in the soft spot of like wanting to make sure the people you care about are protected after you're gone.
Yeah, I think that leads into Joe's point about it having a fairy tale s type of feel to it. Yeah, that definitely lent to that feeling, I would think.
Right. I went into did a little research on this one. The creature design itself was the designer is a guy named Cliff Wallace, who apparently worked on the Hellboy 2, which is kind of cool. I could see some
Oh wow.
some influences there. But he did a Reddit AMA, and I found a quote that I wanted to pull from him about the design. He says, quote, "I like a lot of fashion design. She's really just an incredibly tall woman in a long skirt and opera gloves wearing a really big hat. About 20 years ago, I worked on a commercial in the UK where people were body painted to blend into trees in a birch forest. The black and white always struck me as very graphic, and that stayed with me all the time. There's some great lore around birch trees, and that was definitely an inspiration too."
That is fascinating, and I do have to admit that the creature design was extraordinary, really, really creepy and well done.
Agreed. That was like that's what initially inspired me to do this podcast. Is I'd seen that short film. I was like, that is such a cool creature.
You almost wish that they would delve more into the story. I want to see where it goes because it's really kind of ambiguous in terms of what the young man, the protagonist, what he's going to do with this new ally. We think that kind of has empowered him because he has been the subject of bullying for so long. That could also take a darker turn depending on what the writer has intended. So I would love to see that explored more.
Love it. Again, like the potential for this kind of story is what's the most exciting. Honestly, I just keep thinking about it, and this even works as just like a neat prologue to what an actual movie is about. You know, like if you just wanted to just
Absolutely.
even a time jump to when he's an adult, and then you start to slowly figure out what he's been doing with this creature.
Right. So if anybody listening hasn't gotten a chance to check this one out, we found it on YouTube. It's part of a larger brand called Crypt TV, which I found is kind of a web-based content distributor focused on horror stories with a specific focus on monsters, which is definitely right up the alley of anyone listening to this podcast, I'm sure. But it apparently has like people like Eli Roth and Jason Blum are involved to some capacity. So it's got a strong backing, and I think the point is to serve to like help uplift creative voices that might not get the opportunity otherwise to put out like monster things. So definitely check it out. It looks like it has a lot of cool stuff. I want to check out some more of their things. To your point, Khalid, there is a web series that was made to follow this short film called The Birch. It's on Facebook Watch or Facebook Live. I'm not sure what Facebook channel. But I watched the trailer. It had a bit more of a slasher vibe, so I was a little unsure. But if any of our listeners has seen it, please let us know if it's good and worthwhile.
Please.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But keeping this moving, we're going to move on to the next short film on our list, which is Blackwood.
Blackwood is about Nikki, a sound recordist who tries to discover the source of a mysterious sound whilst she is recording on location in a forest.
Boom. That's quick and
That was
succinct.
the description I got.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. Very good. This is a cool one. This one, Rod, you suggested this one. So why don't you go ahead and start? What do you think?
Yes, I loved it, and it came to my attention because fortunately my website has been around long enough that a lot of filmmakers send me their work for consideration, and I think that's just fantastic, and I consider that a privilege. This was written and directed by an Australian filmmaker by the name of Andrew Montague, and he emailed me and he said, Rod, I'd love for you to take a look at this short film that I did, and I hope you like it. And I saw it and watched it, and I think it's one of the best that I've seen, just because on one level it's kind of meta. You have this sound recordist named Nikki, and she's actually working on the set of a horror film. And this is a horror short film. So I kind of love that little kind of tongue-in-cheek nod to the genre. But what really impressed me about this was not only was it well shot and well written and well acted, but the other character in this short film, and I don't know if you two will agree or not, is the sound design. And that's why I encouraged my listeners and my readers of my website that when they watched Blackwood, make sure you have on a pair of headphones, because so much is going on with the sound design in this film, and it is just spectacular. So it's another favorite.
Agreed. I love this. This might be my favorite. I'm not 100% sure. I like them all, but this might be my favorite.
It's hard to choose.
It is really hard, but I agree with you 100% on the sound being like the other character. I think we've had a couple conversations like this in the past in this podcast about how much sound can really play in to crafting an effective monster or just an effective horror experience. Like
yes,
on the last podcast we had Nicole on, my wife, as a guest, and she said some of the scariest monsters to her are the quiet ones or the silent ones, and so sound plays a big part for her. Like the Pale
I would
Man.
agree.
Yeah, but I also think in another capacity, like we talked about Attack the Block in the past, and we looked at how much effort went into crafting the noise that the aliens make, or think about like an American Werewolf in London, like what they use to make that howl. There's just so much effort that goes into like creating something unique with a monster and with the noise that it makes. I think that's really cool how this movie explores that. Khalid, what did you think?
Yeah, I pretty much gotta echo what you guys said again. Like, this is just a really solid movie. Rod, you make a great point about the sound design being the, like, second lead in this short film. It's super awesome. And, I guess for me, what's great about this story is that I actually work in production. So, like, I've been on sets and stuff like that. And it's this thing where when you're in a work environment full of storytellers, like, inevitably somebody almost always says, like, we should do a story about us, you know, and I know that goes for just about every workplace. Like, somebody's always like, oh, we should have a TV show about our job, but there's something so inherent.
True.
There's something so inherent to doing a story about storytellers and the team and the work that goes into it, that when it's done right, like this one, it's really fun to see and kind of just rewarding and gratifying. And I love that it starts with the short film or the film that they're working on, and then like pulls out and you're in the actual story, and all of that was super cool. Showing love to the sound department, which I'm on a few meme groups, and they definitely get the brunt of the jokes because there's something about, even though sound is 50% of a film, if you're being like just logical about what is important, um, they kind of get the shaft on set as far as priorities go, and they're always like, you're gonna regret it in the edit, that's just how it's gonna go. So it's nice to see them get some vindication in a story that so much like prioritizes sound. But yeah, it was awesome. I liked it a lot.
And I would have to agree with you, Khalid, on that too, because also what I love about this short film is that it is a love letter to the sound crews that are on productions, because they really don't get enough recognition for the work that they do. Because, Joe, like you said, and your wife also commented on, that sound in a film is very important. And if you don't have the right sound, it can really throw off a production. And I also like too that again, it's a love letter to sound design, and it really kind of draws you in. You don't know what's going to happen, and you have all these different sound cues, so it really is a singular viewing experience.
What'd you all think of now that we're deep in spoiler territory and we've clarified that last scene?
I'll jump in real quick, man. I was mad. I hate like jump scares so much. And this one didn't even do a regular jump scare. It did that like slow build thing. That door, I was watching that door like a hawk. I was like, you're not going to get me. It got me.
Well, I think if I have one criticism about the film is that I think it would have been more effective if you didn't see the entity. If she reacted to it, but you as a viewer didn't know what it was she was reacting to, and it ended on that note, I think it would have had even more of an impact. That's just what I feel.
I kind of agree with you. I for as much as we love monsters on this podcast, I kind of feel like the last moment was probably my least favorite part. But that being said, I did go back and rewatch it a few times, and I like froze it right when the monster's jumping out to try to see exactly what it looked like. Which was actually kind of fun for me, just like in the design. It actually kind of looks like an evil Groot,
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because when I saw it, I thought this creature looks kind of familiar, but for the life of me, I couldn't place it. And you're right, it does look like a deranged Groot.
All right, I'm just going to stop this conversation right here for a second to say, are you guys just assuming Groot isn't evil? Like, do either of you speak tree? Because I don't. We don't know his intentions. That's all I'm saying.
Look, now, we can't have Groot hate. No, sorry.
It's more it's Groot skepticism, all right? I've got a whole YouTube video you should watch. It's a whole string on corkboard theory, all right? You'll believe me at the end of it.
Murderboard.
That is too cool.
All right. The next one we're going to talk about is, I think it's from 2015, is a film called The Fisherman.
Yes.
Cool. So The Fisherman. And let me just say real quick, Blackwood, I forgot to give a shout out. It was written and directed by Andrew Montague. So just to give props to a filmmaker doing their thing. So for The Fisherman, which was written and directed by Alejandro Suarez Lozano, it is about Mr. Wong, who is a third-generation fisherman in Hong Kong, struggling to keep the tradition alive. One night, he decides to leave the crowded waters of the harbor and fish in calmer waters. His luck changes when he catches something that does not belong to this world.
And this was another one that Rod recommended to us. So I'll let you start again, Rod. What do you think of this one?
Out of all the short films that we're going to cover, this one feels to me personally the most ambitious and cinematic. And that's what drew me in when I discovered it. And I wrote about this film back in 2017. So it's been around for a while, and it has won a lot of awards internationally, and well deservedly so. And what's wild about it, though, is that I rewatched the film in preparation for me appearing on your podcast, and it seems even more prescient and relevant now because the protagonist is dealing with trying to preserve his way of life, which is kind of fading. He's in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is super modern, and he's trying to find his place in this new paradigm. And now, of course, we're all dealing with this global pandemic, and we're all trying to kind of reorient ourselves. And that just kind of struck with me about this film, even though it was filmed years before the circumstances that what we're dealing with. But it's a beautiful movie. It vies as one of my all-time favorites as far as all the ones that I've covered, because it is so ambitious. It was actually shot in Hong Kong, and it is a true international production because the writer and director is Spanish, and it was, from what I understand, a production that was a collaboration between a production crew in Hong Kong and also the Spanish film crew as well. And I think what they were able to accomplish, from the visual effects to the story, the main actor, is amazing. So this gets 5 out of 5 stars from me, definitely.
Khalid, what did you think?
Yo, this is my favorite one of the five. It looked like a major motion picture that I could legitimately see myself, like, if I caught a trailer of it and there was like a feature length version of it, I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I got like strong just Bong Joon-ho host vibes from it, and it really delivered. It also kind of in the same vein as The Birch, just like made me want to see a feature length version of it. And I guess like the difference would be, whereas like The Birch, I would want it to just continue that story, I would love for The Fisherman to just be one of like, maybe like, basically I want this to be like Hong Kong's version of Independence Day. You know, I want to see this guy and like 5 or 6 other like stories of Hong Kong citizens that just in a way kind of represent the different elements of that city, and maybe I guess China, even like in general, if you wanted to do China. And we just see like all of these walks of life coming together to knock out some mean old aliens.
I would buy a ticket, Khalid.
Thank you. I'm in talks with China right now. We will get this out to you ASAP.
While both of you guys were talking, I just realized the whole time I was nodding my head, like the people listening can see me. But I agree with you all. you guys just hit the nail on the head with this film. It's so cinematic. It's ambitious. It's just really cool. I love that we really don't know much about the monsters. Like, he catches a small like creature at first that we don't know, that escapes. And I don't even know if we know that if it's that one that becomes bigger that comes back, or if it's another one that's bigger that comes and attacks him.
Right.
But I love the ambiguity, and it's scary. Like, it's a truly scary concept, and it kind of gives me some almost Lovecraft vibes, you know, like that sort of like cosmic-y kind of horror element, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, Cthulhu-esque, definitely.
Yeah, like especially with the tentacle-y squid-like stuff.
And I would
Yeah.
defy anyone who watches this short film to not believe that millions were not spent on it. And it is just amazing what this independent film crew were able to accomplish. It looks like Khalid said, a major blockbuster picture. And I just watched it, and I rewatched it, and I rewatched it again, and each time I was just blown away by it. And also, too, I don't want to mispronounce the actor's name, but the gentleman that plays the protagonist, Mr. Wong, his face is so expressive, and you really feel his inner turmoil, and you really come to invest in him and in his plight. And I think that's also a key to the success of this short film.
I wrote the same thing in my notes, that the actor who played just is so expressive and just says so much with just an expression without even saying anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's so petty too. I just love that. You know, I love me a petty protagonist. You know, somebody that isn't just like so like neatly within the lines, relatable, and like an audience by proxy type of person. Like, he doesn't have questions. He doesn't have anything other than like a sheer desire to catch something huge in that ocean, and it happened to be an alien. So that was super cool to see. The writing is really sharp too. I think that less is more with a story like this, and just introducing his problem immediately and leaving it in the backdrop when the real problem starts was such a good call. Yeah, it was just very deftly put together, and another great argument for short films and like patronizing them more.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really good one. If anyone listening hasn't seen it yet, definitely check this one out. Great film.
Oh, I forgot to mention there was a cool description. I can't remember if it was on your website. I think it was on. I think I read it on your article about it. But did you call it Jaws meets aliens in the waters of Hong Kong?
No, I did not, but that I agree that is a good description. I called it evocative of sci-fi classics like Aliens and The Thing.
Okay, yeah. I would say for me, it's Moby Dick if he had to hunt the Kraken. Like that's
Yes.
yeah.
Love it. The next film we're going to touch on is a film from 2018 called Dark Wake.
Okay, guys, if you thought the Blackwood description was short, a lonely recluse lives a recurring nightmare. Period.
Wow.
The end.
There you go.
Oh, and it was written and directed by Abdul Ali.
This is a really interesting one. I feel like this one, I'm not sure if ambitious is the right word, but it's the most experimental of the group that we have.
Yes.
I think. Rod, on your site, you wrote that it's like the monsters in it are evocative of Guillermo del Toro, which I 100% agree with. You also said, and I wanted to quote you on this one from your site, you said it freaked you the hell out.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that?
You want me to elaborate on that? Okay,
Yeah.
even further. I forget how this short film came to my attention, but when I saw it, it did creep me out in a good way. And I remember thinking, the writer and director, what was he on? Or was he was he going through something? But it is just, it defies description. You really need to see it. But it is like you're watching someone having a nightmare. This guy just wakes up and it's completely black, and then this creature appears out of the wall, but you can only see his jawline, and that's horrifying enough. And then he opens his bedroom door, and different creatures come in, and some eat him, and some don't. And they're these. It's just crazy, but in a good way. And I really did think, especially with the creature designs, that it was reminiscent of Guillermo del Toro's work. And again, in a good way. And it's really hard to describe, but it is nightmarish. And I think what really chilled me too about the film is that the kind of infernal guide that is telling this man, not what's going on, but that he's in a very precarious situation. The guy asks him, he says, well, am I inhaled? And the creature goes, innocents have been held here. So no, you're not. And I'm thinking for some reason that has just resonated and stayed with me. It is extremely creepy. And so for people who are looking for horror that is, Joe, I love your description, experimental, but well done, this is the ticket.
Right. Yeah. It's very existential in that way. Like it's a question, just like what's going on. What is my reality right now? We don't know. I mean, the characters don't know.
Right. The actual protagonist is unreliable because you don't know if he's actually in this alternate dimension or if he's hallucinating or if he's disturbed or if he's on drugs. You just don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's so many. I wrote in my notes so many questions.
I love that.
All right. Yeah. Khalid, what do you think?
I guess the word that comes to mind with this one is disorienting. Rod brought up a good point about how this feels like a nightmare, and I think that's the perfect way to put it. I'm the kind of person that I always try to think about it from like a writerly standpoint. So I think about like what the metaphor is, and even if it's not clean or neat, I try to at least like put some kind of metaphor to a story, especially like with genre stuff like horror or sci-fi. And this was hard for me to make any kind of metaphor out of. I guess at times I thought maybe it's an addiction metaphor or a depression metaphor, and while those work, it's never as neat as that would imply. So I hesitate to even ascribe those to it. But I guess just talking about it on its own merits, like I loved the way that it was, like the room was designed. I loved that whole thing about the door hole where you can only see that the helpful monster's mouth, which I kept waiting for that monster to be a jerk. Which I guess just shows my own biases. You see something with like that messed up of a lower half of a face, and you go, well, that thing's gonna that's like your tormentor, isn't it? And it wasn't. It was caping for this dude, and I was very surprised. And it seemed just as sad about the circumstances as the main character, which was cool to see. I the ending was also just super confusing, and that whole like I don't know. For some reason I kept thinking about that. Like I don't know if it's a religion or a story or something I've heard before, but like the idea that like the whole world is on the back of a turtle. That's when that thing came out. I was like, oh, is like the Earth going to be on it or something? So, I also didn't know why that was like the scariest thing you could possibly see. So that was also kind of confusing. But overall, I liked it, and I actually appreciated the disorienting nature of it because it made it that much more unsettling.
The director, I couldn't find a lot about the director online, but I found the webpage for this short, and he has like designs that he made of the monsters and the creatures, and that giant fish one is called the Riverman, apparently.
Wow. And I tried too to find out, Joe, when I originally wrote the piece, more about the director, but I just found his official website. And I kind of also, as for me, the allure of the short film is that you don't know that much about this guy, but he is extremely talented, and I honestly hope that we see more from him.
And I think he was the one himself who did a lot of the creature design. So it makes me feel like the film itself is a vehicle for the designs that this guy might have had in his head. That's just speculation, of course, but that's kind of how this feels a little bit to me.
Right, almost like a calling card of sorts.
Right. Do you guys have? So I think we saw like four, maybe five monsters total. Do you guys have a favorite monster from this short?
The one that had the four eyes and the horrific mouth. That was my favorite one because that's the one that really, well, all of them are horrible, but that's the one that really terrified me the most. I think it was the one that devoured the guy at one point.
That was the first one, I think, right?
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the one that had the four-eye looking things and the huge, huge jaw, that's my favorite.
That got me too. I wrote that one down. It reminded me a little bit of like almost like a cross of the xenomorph and like a pumpkin head type thing.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
How about you, Khalid?
I couldn't articulate that.
I was gonna say the four-eyed monster, but then you told me that turtle thing was called the Riverman, so I'm with Riverman. That's a cool name.
That is.
Sounds like,
That
sounds like he's got like a bluegrass band or something. I would go like check out.
I would watch. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything about this short film is cool and very disturbing, so I highly recommend it because of that.
Agreed. The final film that we're going to talk about today, and this is by no means the end of our recommendation list. I'm hoping we'll do another episode, and there's so many great short films out there for monster lovers. But Khalid, take it away. It's Dispel.
When young Lizzie learns her older brother is moving out, she realizes she will be left at home alone with her monster of a mother. Armed with the lessons of her favorite TV show, Celeste Skygood, Lizzie battles to save her mother from the dark forces that have transformed her.
This one, this is definitely the least scary of them, and the monster is like the kind of the smallest part of this film. But I really want to include it because I really like this one. And Rod, I believe you did an interview on your podcast with the director of this one, didn't you?
I did. The writer and director is a talented young woman by the name of Kylie Eaton. And I had the pleasure of interviewing her last year about this film. And it was a great conversation. And she went on to say, essentially, this short film is a metaphor for addiction that she wrote. She herself is personally a sober person. And so she wanted to show how the loved ones of a person who is addicted, she just wanted to write a story about their experience. And of course, she tells that experience through the eyes of young Lizzie, who is portrayed by Eris Baker, who is a phenomenal young actress from This Is Us.
Yeah, it's really poignant. It comes through really well. What I kind of took from it too, I saw the addiction metaphor, but personally in my own family, there's a history of addiction with close family members, and what I really appreciated about this was the idea that the monster was harming the mother who was addicted, and that the addiction
Right.
wasn't necessarily a flawed personality or a character flaw or a personality defect. It was something that was harming her too. It was treated as sort of what it is. It's a disease, an affliction that that hopefully someone can overcome, rather than that person is a problem.
Exactly, and unfortunately, I've had experiences with loved ones who have dealt with addiction as well. And also, what I loved about the ending of the film as well, and Kylie Eaton kind of confirmed this. She said it wasn't a message that love overcomes all. That's not really what she was trying to say in the film, but it's just that when you are loving someone and dealing with someone who is addicted in your life, really the only thing that you can do is offer them support and love and hope that that somehow helps them to get the help and support that they actually need. Another aspect of this short that I really enjoyed too was anything with Gina Torres in it, I'm sold.
Yes,
Period.
sir.
And she doesn't have a big part, but it is a significant one. And I also love too that the entire Celeste Skygood show and intellectual property that this young girl Lizzie that she's so infatuated with is a intentional love letter to the science fiction shows of the 90s like Xena and Hercules and shows like that, and Kylie did confirm that. So I love that whole aesthetic that she gave to the short film, that dimension of it, and how Lizzie actually brings forth her hero to kind of help her deal with her mother and the entire situation that her family finds itself enmeshed in. So, Joe, I agree. It's poignant. It's a very beautiful film.
Right. And it's fun, like you said, it's fun. Like that magical realism element, and just sort of like the nostalgia piece is super fun. Like I don't know about you guys, but I would watch Celeste Skygood. If that was a show on TV, I would watch it.
I know
Amen.
you would, Joe. You'd watch it and then you'd text me every week asking if I've seen it.
That's the
Oh,
tracks.
Joe, you got called out.
Yeah.
That is too funny.
What'd you think of this movie,
Wow.
Khalid?
Yeah, it was really sweet. I would say that this was definitely the most character driven of the ones we saw. With I guess you could argue the Fisherman, but even that turns more towards plot near the end. With this one, it was all about Lizzie and her brother for the most part, and that relationship, and then the specter of the mother, and even the way they wrap it up at the end is so much more about the character of the mother than it is about the monster. And like I was saying, I look at these stories through the lens of a writer, and I always appreciate when the plot is in service to the characters. So that's what really made me appreciate this story. And just discussing it now, it also made me think about what Rod was saying about blurred culture and the power of like a character like Nichelle Nichols. I feel like Gina Torres was definitely in that same wheelhouse with this character, and I think that's what's nice about blurred culture that doesn't always necessarily come out, is that we also are looking for characters in popular culture to latch onto and to try and understand our own problems through, because it's so much easier to address a problem and go, okay, how would so and so do it? And Gina Torres is a big part of that. Like, I remember growing up, I must have been like 10 or 11 when Angel first came on, and then she was a big character in the 4th season, and I remember seeing her then, which was like, she always stuck with me for her performance. And then eventually she went on to be a super awesome sci-fi action hero in her own right with not Serenity, what was it?
Firefly.
Firefly.
Yeah. So I loved having her in here. I feel like it wasn't an accident that she was cast outside of just being a talented actress. I think that I don't want to speak for the director, Kylie, but I feel like she played a big role growing up for a lot of blurs in
Well,
pop
Khalid, may I
culture.
interject very quickly since you brought that up about Gina's casting? And I don't want to make us run long, so I apologize. But I really do have to share this. When I spoke with Kylie, I asked her, I said, did you write this specifically for Gina? And she said she did, but she didn't think that Gina would be interested. She thought, well, I wrote it for her because Gina Torres is a personal hero of hers in terms of the genre. And she said, well, I'm going to write it for Gina, but I know she won't ever do it. And one of her production assistants said, ask Gina, just send it to her and see. And if she does, great. But if she doesn't, then we'll go on and cast. And that's what happened. She sent Gina the script. Gina loved it. She called Gina and they discussed it and she agreed to do it. So sometimes you have not because you ask not. I thought that was a great story.
That's really sweet to hear, actually, and honestly, just it makes me like Gina Torres that much more. Like I already had such high regard for her as an actress. She's so talented, but that's really sweet to hear too. That like she's a good person on top of it all.
Look, I think we three are the billionth chapter of the Gina Torres fan club. So let's just let's just cop to it here and now.
I've already got the shirts printed.
Send me one, Khalid.
I got
Love
you,
it.
Rod.
All right. Well, normally for people who listen to this podcast, the last segment or close to the end segment, one of the things we do, because we're usually talking about one monster, is Khalid does a fight it or flirt it segment. Have you heard that before, Rod?
Yes, I have.
It's been kind of a fun thing we do, but it's a little bit harder with a bunch of monsters. So what we decided to do for this one is we're going to do kind of a monster rumble segment. And this is
Okay.
just the idea is to try to take each monster out of the context of the story they're in and just think if they were all put into a ring together, which monster do you think would come out on top of the I was going to say 5, but there's like 4 or 5 just in Dark Wake. Out of all of the ones that we saw, which monster do you think might be the most powerful and which one do you think would win in that situation?
Wow. Okay. Let me think. I believe the creatures in Dark Wake because they are so otherworldly and so bizarre, and we really don't know anything about them. Well, we really don't know that much about any of the creatures, but they're just so wild, in terms of their appearance, and we don't know their motivations. I think that they would win out because let's just go with the short film we were just discussing, Dispel. The creature is actually a metaphor for addiction, and that's really hard. But fortunately, people do overcome and recover from addiction. So, and then I think with Birch, I don't. I think the Birch would put up a good fight, but I think the creatures in Dark Wake would just overwhelm it by sheer numbers. Let's see here. And then we had the aliens and the fishermen. That's going to be close because, again, they are otherworldly in and of themselves. We don't know that much about them. So I think it's going to come down to the creatures in the fisherman and Dark Wake. I think the creature in Blackwood wouldn't stand a chance. I think the creature from the Birch would beat it. So that's what I'm going to go with. It's going to come down to the creatures from the fisherman and Dark Wake, but I think I'm going to give the edge to the creatures in Dark Wake.
Interesting. All right. Khalid, do you have something in mind?
Okay, so I guess I'm of the mind that like if we're saying it's just as many of the monsters that were featured, then sure, Dark Wake I think wins by a mile, especially with my homie the Riverman. Just by sheer size and the implications of what it can do, I don't know how you could beat it because it sounds like you'd have to be on its level or like its playing field to even address it. But I also I don't know. I feel like if it's a sheer numbers thing, then the fisherman also has a claim just by the fact that by the end of the movie, spoiler alert, Hong Kong is devastated. It's attacked by it's an invasion. So at that point you're talking about like a monster alien army. That being said, he also killed one of them with a harpoon. So doesn't seem like if it was going up against another monster, let alone a bunch of other humans, that it would be like very difficult to kill. And then I'm also partial to the monster in the birch. Like right now, the needle is moving towards the birch monster, just because I feel like we only saw a little bit of what it could do against like a teenage boy, and it wasn't even trying. So I gotta think it's got a few more tricks up its sleeve, and could maybe do a few more things that we just haven't considered.
Great points too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to take a little bit of a left turn from some of the things that you guys said, and I actually think the dark wake creatures would not do well in this situation because hear me out on this one. I think so. We see in the in the film that the way he's finally able to overcome like the monsters that come eating him every time. He listens. I think it was Claire de Lune, right? He remembers a song and he stops being afraid of them, right? So presumably,
Pretty sure it was Brick House, Joe.
Was it Brick House? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But presumably they feed off fear, and I think if it was monster v monster v monster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the other monsters wouldn't really be afraid of the dark wake monsters. So I think they're out.
Okay.
But and I think the Groot creature from the Blackwood is also out. I'm with you, Rod, on that one. So for me, it kind of goes between the squid creatures and the birch, the fisherman creatures. I'm with you on that, and I think the squid creatures because of numbers and just the destruction that we saw. The birch just because there's so much mystery to it. And I will, as an addendum to that, just say like, despite me taking out the dark wake creatures, we do learn at the end that the Riverman kind of came after he defeated the others. So actually, probably the Riverman realistically is the one that would win. So I guess good for you, Khalid, your buddy. But I don't know. It's I think it's between the squid creatures, the birch, and again, I guess I'll throw in the Riverman.
Guys, this was hard.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, this was very, very difficult. So, but that just goes to show the power of a good creature feature.
Agreed. Creature features are wonderful.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Khalid, I'm going to throw a wrench your way. Out of all the creatures, which one would you flirt with?
Ooh, that's a good
Oh,
question.
God.
I'm going to say the Dispel creature just because I know that eventually it turns into a pretty, like, 30-something-year-old mom. The rest of it's like, for me, it's the... don't get me wrong. I know I'm flirting with the monster version, but it's like she's basically the closest thing we have in all of these to a werewolf, and for me, it's like, I don't know, if you're pretty enough and cool enough and whatever, yeah, you turn into a monster once a month. We all got problems.
Good choice. Interesting. I actually thought you were going to go with the monster in the wall in Dark Wake, the woman who you only see the lower half of their jaw.
Oh, so creepy.
Nah.
All right. So we're going to move on next to our final segment of the episode and then wrap it up. Just for time's sake, we're going on long. Every episode I feel like we're going long, but it's fun. More content for everyone. But our final segment is we've been trying to figure out a name for it, kind of like a Ask Me About section. Khalid suggested What the Fandom, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the idea is we'll go around and say just what are we into right now? What would we recommend? What do you want people to ask you more about? So just in terms of like what's your obsession right now, basically. So Khalid, why don't you start us off? What are you into? What would you like to plug or recommend?
All right, just to bust out my blurred credentials one more time, I would like to recommend the new Netflix film, The Old Guard. It's
Yes.
so good, so good. I cannot recommend it enough. Directed by Gina Prince Blythewood, who also directed Love and Basketball, which is one of my favorite just movies. I don't even want to limit it to genre. Every time I watch it, I can just sit through the whole thing without losing my attention, and it all just hits the same as it did when I first saw it. And this movie is right up there with it. She has come so far as a director and done so well, and this movie is a great tribute to the experiences that she's had along the way. And it's based on a graphic novel. and the cast is uniformly great. I really love what Charlize Theron does. She might be our generation's best action star, with the exception of maybe Keanu Reeves. Yeah, I could go on and on, but I love it so much, and just please make more superhero movies where a protagonist has cornrows. I cannot tell you how cool that was to see.
Love it. Rod, how about you?
Okay, can mine be a book?
Absolutely, it could be anything.
Okay, all right. And by the way, co-sign on that, Khalid. For me, I'm really enjoying a series of fantasy novels. The first one is called The Children of Blood and Bone by author Tomi Adeyemi. And it is a grand fantasy that is based on West African traditions and religion in a pantheon of gods called the Orisha. And the sequel just recently was released, The Children of Virtue and Vengeance. And I believe there's going to be a third one. Disney has already snapped up the rights and is working on a movie version of it. But if you love grand fantasies but you want a different perspective, then definitely check out The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi.
That's been on my to-read list for a while. You've finished the first one completely?
I finished the first one. It is excellent.
Oh, I have a copy. I mentioned this before on the podcast. I teach 4th grade, but I have a copy in my classroom that some kids have read, and I want to read it myself now.
Oh, wow. Okay, did your students enjoy it?
I think only 1 or 2 have read it. For
okay.
4th grade, I think it's a little bit young sometimes, but some kids who are more advanced readers, they were into it. Yeah.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. Yeah, definitely, Joe, if you get a chance, read it. I think you would enjoy it. Really good books, and I can't wait to see where the story goes.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to put that to the top of the list then. So, for me, one thing that has kind of been one of my obsessions lately is I've been into the podcast called Our Opinions Are Correct. Haven't you guys listened to that yet?
I've heard of it, but I've never listened to an episode.
So it's got a couple like sci-fi fantasy authors. It's Charlie Jane Anders and Annalie Newitz who founded IO9, I believe they did.
Yes, they did.
But their podcast is just so much fun. I've been listening to some of the back episodes. They have one about specifically about monsters from like a female perspective. That was really fascinating. They had one about
cool.
Afrofuturism that was really good, and they have like some really cool guests that I've really enjoyed. So that's kind of been my obsession. I think any fans of this podcast would 100% dig it. So definitely give that a listen.
What is it called again, Joe?
It's called Our Opinions Are Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like to mix it up. We talk in the beginning about corners of pop culture, although we've only really talked about TV shows and movies. So I'm kind of going to consider the short film category like another corner. So now we've got 3, right?
This is definitely a third corner.
Yeah. So we got a triangle. No, triangle. Not triagon. That's triangle.
Really? Did you just say triagon?
I did, and I just invented to be a teacher too. That's great.
You're
Triangle.
A teacher.
Triangle.
Man, you guys are tough.
Yeah. So we have a
I
triangle.
heard that resignation in Joe's voice.
You can't let that slide, Rod. Come on, he said triagon.
Right
bro.
after it, I had to pause because I knew Khalid was going to say something. Ugh.
Keep that in the final edit.
All right, it's staying in. It's staying in.
Cool.
Better.
So we've had a triangle pop culture so far. Next week, I think we're going to even add to it. Our next episode, we'll be touching on the comic book series Bitterroot, which I'm pretty excited about. Have you read that, Rod?
Yeah. I have not, but I do have it through Comicology. I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet.
Yeah, that's the topic of our next one, and I'm pretty excited to move on there. But yeah, thanks for joining us so much. It was a blast to have you on. This is a fun episode.
Oh, guys, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun for me.
Agreed, Rod. You were a great guest, man. It was super fun talking to you.
Thanks, man.
Where can we find your stuff, Rod? Any like Twitter or social media that we should follow you on?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm really active, as you both know, on Twitter. So Twitter is my handle. My website handle is @the7th, and that's with the numeral 7. The Seventh Matrix. And I'm also on Instagram, but I'm not quite as active on Instagram as I am on Twitter. And then everyone can find out all about what we do at the7thmatrix.com by visiting the7thmatrix.com. And that'll also take you to our podcast, Eye on Sci-Fi.
Wonderful. Definitely check those out. They're all fantastic. Rod, we'd love to have you back someday.
Sure,
if you
anytime.
want to. We do another short film episode, or if you just have a monster you want to talk about one day, just let us know.
Yeah. And I definitely extend the invitation to have you guys on a future episode of my podcast.
Oh, anytime.
Count me in, man.
Cool.
All right, Khalid, I'll let you send us off.
All right. You guys know the deal. Creep it easy.